Hi, today I want to be talking to you about stress management, and resilience. Lately it's been like a really stressful time for so many people, and a lot of people don't realize that they're struggling with stress. Um, so they go about their days feeling that they're not stressed when actually they are. So I just want to talk about what stress is, um, the good versus bad stress, just versus distress, and stress can actually be a positive thing when used correctly. I'm going to be talking about why stress affects us. Why does stress seem to affect one person more than another? I'm going to be talking about how it might affect you, get you to reflect on how stress affects you so you become more aware of the effect it has on yourself. And most importantly, I'm going to be going over stress management. How can we manage stress? How can we build resilience? What is resilience? Um, okay, so stress, what is it? Now, a lot of us will probably be feeling like this hamster. I'm sure we've all felt like this at least once in our life, and once being if we're lucky. Um, so stress is a feeling of emotional or physical tension. It can come from any event or thought that makes you feel frustrated, angry, or nervous. Um, and it doesn't have to be from those emotions specifically, but stress is both a emotional and a physical reaction to a stimuli, and it's our way that our body reacts to a challenge or a demand. You may have heard of the fight or flight response. It's been around since we were hunters and gatherers, and we face a lot more predators than we do today, and it was the body's physical way of um, recognizing a stress and then reacting in the best way possible in order to increase our chances of survival. The parasympathetic nervous system acts like a brake to this response. So you've got the sympathetic nervous system, which is what's activated when we have the fight or flight response. But then the parasympathetic nervous system kind of acts on a brake on the sympathetic nervous system, and that's when we can start the rest and digest response. And it's called that because we start to rest, we start to relax, but also like digestion starts to kind of start up again, as that slows down when the sympathetic nervous system is activated. Um, so once the danger has passed, that's kind of like activated. Now what happens in our day-to-day lives is that we're so busy that the fight or flight response is supposed to be a temporary thing, like 20-30 minutes, react to stress, fight or flight response, sympathetic nervous system activated, and then 20-30 minutes you relax, the parasympathetic nervous system is activated, you calm down, everything kind of gets back to normal. But because our lives are so busy, so full of stresses one after another, and multiple all at one time, the body doesn't get to relax as it should, which is why so many people experience chronic stress, burnout, and a lot of stress related medical problems as well. As stress can actually increase the risk of a lot of serious medical problems. So the physical effects of stress are quite numerous. Got headaches. Do you find that you're constantly having headaches? There's no other real reason. Maybe you're hydrated, eating enough, and exercise. And you just can't find like a reason. It could be stress. Asthma can also be caused by stress, maybe not directly, but it can definitely increase the chances of high blood pressure, definitely weakened immune system because your body's constantly on high alert, it's constantly working a lot harder, and because of that, the immune system is weakened, and that means that you kind of get more ill more often. If you're constantly getting ill, maybe more than you used to, then maybe look at stress. As with a lot of mental health issues, things that affect our mental health. Sleep is like the biggest and the first indicator that something is wrong. The body instantly goes to sleep to tell us that something is wrong. So your sleep may be disturbed. You may find that you're sleeping more, or maybe not at all, or a lot less than usual. You may find that you find it difficult getting to sleep, or maybe even difficulty staying asleep, or sometimes even that the quality of sleep isn't the same. So sometimes you might get the same amount of sleep but wake up not feeling as rested as usual. Digestive problems, that's because the digestive system slows down when we are in fight or flight, and that's because we don't need our digestive system in order to like run away or fight a predator. In the fight or flight response, your body is focusing on the heart, on the lungs, on your muscles, and the brain, the crucial organs. So digestive system's kind of halted or at least slowed down. And the other effects of stress can be on daily lives. It can have effect on relationships. If you're more irritable, if you're feeling stressed, you may not feel like you have necessarily time for relationships. Mood swings, difficulty concentrating, all can affect relationships, can affect productivity, it can affect work, can affect all aspects of life. Really, it also increases the risk of substance abuse, especially like alcohol, drugs. People use them as coping mechanisms, use them to relax as like short term, and then they get addicted to them. And I've also got there a table that you can look at and kind of read really in your own time. It's a detailed list of the system and kind of like what's involved in the parasympathetic nervous system, what's involved in the sympathetic nervous system in relation to stress. But you can definitely see that by reading it, the demand that it has on the body and why stress has such a physical effect on us, and also like fatigue as well. It's a big one because the body's like working a lot harder, so we get fatigued a lot more quickly than we perhaps would. Okay, so I mentioned previously that not all stress is bad, and that's because there's eustress versus distress. So eustress is kind of like when it's beneficial to us. A certain amount of stress can be beneficial, it can motivate us, it can increase performance and increase well-being as well. So it's got this bell curve. So too little stress, you're not going to be productive, not going to be motivated to get things done. And then you've got that kind of section of the optimal level of stress, and that's where you're productive, you're motivated, you're getting things done, and it works like a driving force. But then we hit this point where usually over a period of time or too much stress happening at once, and that's when we start to get the negative effects, the physical effects, emotional, mental effects of it, and that's when it becomes distress, not eustress, and that's when it becomes bad stress. And that's so good stress is when it's having a positive impact. So eustress, positive impact, distress, negative impact, and then it goes down. And when you're in the red, that's when you get anxiety, panic attacks, breakdowns, burnout as well. So you want to prevent that. Okay, so stress and anxiety have very similar physical symptoms. They're very similar, they cross over, and it can be quite difficult to distinguish. I just thought I'd include this. So stress tends to be very specific, whereas like anxiety, you may not specifically know the cause, whereas stress will be like, oh, I have an assignment, whereas anxiety maybe I don't like going to shops because it's too busy. as well. So like stress seems to be like stimuli, physical response. Anxiety is a bit more complicated, as you've got the emotional and the cognitive aspects of that, and there's a difference between stress and anxiety as a mental illness. And stress kind of leads to like less emotional distress, whereas anxiety is more severe emotional distress. Stress can affect emotions, but it's not an emotional response. It is a physical response, and a cognitive response in terms of our thoughts and our reactions. But anxiety is more emotional. Stress can be managed by problem solving techniques. We can manage it, stress management, in our daily lives. Whereas with anxiety, it can feel that it is beyond your control. More difficult to manage. Simply doing stress management techniques may help, but it can involve medication. It's a lot more complicated. It can involve therapeutic treatments from a professional because of the cognitive, the thoughts, the experiences, the cognitive distortions, the just the emotional reasons and the impact of that behind anxiety. And another thing is that stress, like a normal routine, is maintained a lot of the time, like, unless you're experiencing burnout, when you may start to get rid of some things because it feels too much, you might be able to do less. Normally, stress doesn't stop you from doing something, whether anxiety can really hamper a normal routine or stop it or change it because it stops you. It can stop you doing something. So that's kind of like the difference between stress and anxiety. And if you are really stressed and you have anxiety as well, it's extremely hard to kind of distinguish. And but it's definitely recommended that if you have anxiety, to manage your stress levels and do stress management, because it will help to manage the anxiety as well, to a lesser extent than the stress, but it won't go amiss. Anyway, so stress sensitivity. So I kind of mentioned that I'll go over why some people may seem to be affected more than others. And that's because of this thing called stress and sensitivity. So everyone is like a glass of water. Some, like everybody's glass is a different shape, it's a different size, and that represents our ability to manage stress. And then you've got a tap pouring into it, and the water is the stress. And when it gets full up, that's when we kind of need to empty it out. And stress management is emptying it out as we kind of go along. But there are certain things that make our jar kind of fill up quicker, and there's certain things that kind of affect like the shape of the jar, that we might actually start up off with a big jar and then like by the end of it have like quite a small jar, but we can actually get a bigger jar by doing stress management because we can empty it out as we go along. And stress sensitivity is affected by the stuff that is going around us. So you may think and you may kind of think to a time when you felt like really stressed during a day, and it might have been you didn't sleep very well, maybe you skipped breakfast, maybe you hadn't exercise, maybe somebody was like really rude to you in the morning, and these kind of things like add up and can affect like our tolerance to stress during the day. Whereas normally that stressor would not have affected you in that same way. You may have to give a presentation at work, or you receive a criticism at work and you find this stuff that you're stressed and maybe you use your temper, then you wouldn't normally do that. But it might have been that your alarm was late, you woke up late, you missed a train, you had to rush for it, and missed it. You might have slept really badly. Maybe you couldn't have the breakfast that you wanted. All these things are like going on behind the scene. And it may be completely insignificant. Maybe you didn't have that glass of water that you normally have with breakfast, or maybe you kind of woke up 10 minutes beforehand, and they may seem insignificant, but they can make all the difference to somebody's stress sensitivity. Now it's kind of like physical kind of thing. So there's the amygdala, which is kind of like what's responsible for the stress and the fear response in the brain. And basically, when we are stressed, that becomes bigger, and our hippocampus, which kind of manages like relaxing and like stress control, actually gets like smaller. And over time, this can actually break down, atrophy, and die. So when we're in a constant like stress state, it can actually do brain damage, and just by being stressed. And that is one of the reasons why it's so important to kind of keep on from stress. And it's also why you may find that you might be thinking, oh, but I've got more stress now, but you know, it's not affecting me like it used to. Or you may feel like, oh, I'm managing my stress more, but I'm not really doing anything. Why is that? And it can be because of this. So actually, you kind of need more stress hormones. So your body's already full of stress hormones, and just like caffeine, you take it for a long enough time, you're going to need to up the dose to feel the same effect. And that's the same where, like, you've probably heard the saying, I'm so stressed that I don't feel stressed anymore. And this is it, like your body has got so used to stress hormones going through your body that you don't feel stressed, and then you actually need a high level of stress to actually feel stressed at all. Which is why it's so important to just try stress management, because it might be that you implement stress management into your life, and then you actually think, oh wow, that's actually made a lot of difference. I feel relaxed, and you may not have even realized that you were stressed. That's why it's like so important. It's just the limbic system, which is involves the amygdala and the hypothalamus, just to show you kind of where it is in the brain. And you can kind of see there, like if you get like a stress headache, it's usually at the front of the head, and it's those kind of areas are getting to work. Kind of see that. Okay, so stress management. I've talked about why stress is important, the effect of it. I think you get in the picture. Stress management comes in all areas of our life. What works for one person will be like completely different to what works for another person. So stress management, so meditation, it is great. Deep breath is great as it activates the body's parasympathetic nervous system. It activates the body's relaxation, the response, the hippocampus, all of that is activated just by taking deep breaths. So you can take a deep breath in, you can hold it, release it, and then repeat. And normally you do that 4 to 5 times, or however long it takes to kind of start like to calm down. And you can do that in public as well. Just take a deep breath, and people don't tend to notice that. Exercise is great. Getting moving is going. It releases serotonin, which we all love, and it doesn't need to be getting into the gym. Studies have shown that just 10 minutes a day can make a real impact on our mood and our mental health. As in 10 minutes a day of walking, and 10 minutes a day of walking has actually been shown in studies to have more of an impact than going to the gym. So yeah, it doesn't have to be much. And it can be that when you are feeling really stressed, and you don't have much time, maybe just going to get a glass of water is great, or maybe just going for like a 5-minute walk, maybe going up and down the stairs a couple of times, just help to kickstart that relaxation response, clear your mind. You know, people say, oh, go for a walk, it really clears my mind, and because it relaxes you, it kickstarts that relaxation response, and the brain can work more effectively. It's going from the fight or flight response, and it's working like a lot better. And it's also why walking has shown to increase creativity as well, because you can't be creative, or creativity is reduced when you're in the fight or flight response, because it's just focusing on survival, creativity goes out the window. Time in nature, I find time in nature is really important for myself. Find it really relaxing. There's a river near me, I go and walk on by it. Just being by water is like amazing for me. So nature is great, and it doesn't have to be long. Just going out, taking a couple minute walk or a 10-minute walk, just being in nature. Maybe if you find that a chore, sometimes I think I'm going to take 3 really good pictures on this walk, and I'll look on the walk for something interesting. Sleep well, recharge. So you should get about 8 to 10 hours a day. It'd be different to everybody. But sleep is extremely important for recharging the body, especially deep sleep, and sleep hygiene is extremely important for that. Deep sleep's where the body kind of refreshes, kind of restarts, heals, recharges. Okay, connect socially. This is like really important. Loneliness is important. Even introverts, although they may find some social interaction draining, they still need social interaction every now and again. We are a social species. We do need to be around others. At the same time, we weren't designed to have a huge social network in our lives. So don't feel bad if like your social like you can't have like hundreds of friends sometimes, or you just have 1 or 2 friends. That's fine. We're not designed to have huge social circles, social networks. That's just not how we work. We're not designed to have that number of connections mentally and emotionally. Okay, so eat well. Eating well is so important, and giving your body what you need. If you're constantly eating sugar, then you're constantly having insulin spikes and energy crashes, which is just going to affect your mood. It's going to affect your energy levels. Whereas if it's more consistent throughout the day, you're going to have more energy. It's better for your body as well. Caffeine is another one. I know it wakes you up. I know you kind of feel like you need to have caffeine, but it can lead to anxiety or anxiety symptoms. It can definitely make it worse. It can definitely increase stress, increases blood pressure. So just be mindful of what you're putting in your body, and of course stay hydrated. I drink about 4 to 5 litres in a day, but 8 cups is recommended at least, depending on yourself as well. You can also always look up calculators to work out exactly what your body needs as well. So it's important to give your body what it needs. Okay, make lists, prioritize tasks. With stress, you may feel like, oh my gosh, I've got so much going on, can't think. I don't know what I'm going to do first. I don't know how to tackle this, and of course that gives you more stress. You're stressing about the stress. But make a list, write down everything. Okay, there's everything on my mind. Okay, what are the solutions? What can I do to solve this? Do I even need to deal with this right now? What needs to be done now? What needs to be done later? And kind of make a list, prioritize them. You may feel like you have all these stresses in your life, and you may feel you have to tackle them right now, but that's not the best way of doing it. It's not manageable. Try and pick one task, focus on that, deal with it, move on to the next, and use your time wisely. Just because your day is busy, it does not mean it was productive. It does not mean that you've got everything you need to be done, or that you use your time effectively or in the best way. Some 2 tips that I've got is don't think of stress as a crisis, but more of a challenge. Our mindset to stress can really change how we approach it, what we think of it. And if we're thinking of it as a crisis, then, you know, we are going to be stressed, you know, because we think about it negatively, and that's going to change the way we think about it, the way we approach it, our actions. But if we think of it as a challenge, something to overcome, then we're going to be more proactive about it. We're going to do things to manage it. We're going to think about it more positively. And if we're thinking about it more positively, our stress sensitivity is actually going to be like lower, whereas we think it's a crisis, then our stress sensitivity, you know, it's going to take less stress to feel stressed. Okay, take action, don't overthink. A lot of people, when it comes to stress, they tend to overthink it so much. They'll take the stressor, think about it, over stress about it, and it can make it bigger than it actually is. And the solution may actually be quite simple, but we think about it so much that we can kind of make it seem bigger than it is. And I'm not saying that it's not something big in your life, but sometimes the solution is like so simple and it can be dealt with. And a lot of time when we overthink things, like by the time that we've kind of worked ourselves up, we could have solved it. So take action, don't overthink. The way that we manage stress, the way that we get rid of stress, the way that we manage those stresses is to be proactive. We can't just think, oh, I'm going to do nothing and it's going to change. We have to be proactive. We have to do something. Okay, so resilience. Resilience is extremely important in managing stress. We can manage it short term, but resilience means that in future incidences of change, we're able to manage it like better. So resilience is the ability to recover from or adjust easily to misfortune or change. You may see people around and you might be like, oh, they have so much stress in their life, but they can just like bounce back. They know how to manage it. And it's called resilience. And some people are just naturally more resilient than others, to do with personality, the way they're brought up, so many different factors. But we can learn to be resilient. We can build resilience. So just take up a moment, just kind of think and rate how resilient you are. Pause this video, take a moment. How resilient are you? When you experience stress, how quick are you to recover from it, and adjust and bounce back from it? Okay, now that you've got that number in your head, I just want to go through a modern definition of resilience and what does it maybe look like. This maybe applies more to like the workplace, but it means that we are advancing, we are moving forward, and this can be by setting goals, working towards a vision. You're moving forward, you have something in your head, you're moving towards it. The word despite, so it's advancing despite adversity. So this means being proactive. Don't wait for adversity. We all experience it. We're all going to have something in our life that is stressful at any one time. Don't wait for it. Like prepare for it, and act on it. Because being prepared for it means that we're going to react to it a lot better and response. And we can't change what necessarily goes on, but we can change the way that we respond to it. We'll change what we think about it, our feelings towards it, and it changes our actions at the end of the day. In terms of like adversity, we experience both large and small everyday challenges. And if we are prepared, if we're proactive, we're going to think, okay, I can manage this. I can manage the stresses in my life. I can manage it. I am equipped to prepare for it. So advancing despite adversity is the modern day definition of resilience. And there are 6 domains of resilience. So these are kind of areas that you kind of build up, areas to kind of work on. So vision, this includes purpose, goals, and congruence. So having goals, having a purpose kind of gives you something to focus on. So it means that in tough times, you're more driven forward, you're more able to bounce back because you know what you're working for. And motivation is extremely important, but what's better than motivation is knowing a reason why. We may be motivated when we think, oh, we're going to reward ourselves, or it's a challenge, or it's something to achieve. But if we actually know why we're doing it, then understanding why is going to be I call it the long-term motivation. So short-term motivation is kind of like the typical motivation that we all kind of think of, but knowing the reason why is the long-term motivation. Okay, composure. So regulate emotions. If you know that you struggle regulating emotions, there are things that you can do to regulate emotions. On a quick internet search will bring up some stuff, and if you really struggle, talking to a professional is recommended. Interpretation bias. So we all see things, we all have the stimuli, and then we have our responses to it. But before we have the responses, we have all of our experiences, all of our assumptions, all of our thoughts, feelings previously, things that we've been told, all the influences in our life, whether positive or negative, is going to affect how we view something, how we respond to something because of that. So actually recognizing that we have a bias in a certain area can help us to change that. And by changing our perspective towards something, can change our response. And even if we change our response then, in future, because we changed that response but one time, we're going to feel it completely different the next time. And that's another way that we can build resilience. Reasoning, problem solving. Got a problem, solve it. Stress is a problem, it's a challenge to overcome. So you have an issue, what's the solution? How am I going to overcome it? It may not be in the next second, it may not be in the next minute, it may not be in the next day, week, month, or even year, but how am I going to work towards solving it? And if we're working towards solving it, we're going to feel a whole lot better, and we're going to feel like we're in control of it. Resourcefulness. So what resources are in your life? Make the most of resources. No such thing as too many resources. You may find that you start off with so many and you need that, and then you cut it down, or you may start off with like one and build it up, but find what works for you, and depending on the time, depending on the stimuli, the stressor, you may need more than one resource to kind of deal with it. Anticipate and plan. Kind of already like mentioned that if we anticipate it, if you know it's coming, it's easy to be prepared. Obviously, it doesn't mean that we're not going to be stressed at the time. None of this means that we're not going to be stressed. It just means that we are a lot more able to manage it than previous. And planning, it's just great. It gives you in control. If you know that you're stressed, you've already got like a step-to-step plan. You're like, okay, I'm just going to work through the plan. Get to the end of the plan. Okay, I didn't need to feel stressed because I had this plan, and I was prepared, and I've dealt with that stressor now. I can forget about it. Health, working health, physical health, nutrition, sleep, exercise, extremely important. It's going to help you feel better as well, giving the body what it needs. Tenacity, the persistence, realistic optimism. So it's kind of like the combination between realism and optimism. It's looking at things with a positive mindset, but being realistic of what you're going to achieve, what you can actually do, and any possible outcomes. Bounce back as well. How are you going to bounce back? You've got a stressor. How are you going to bounce back from it? Do you need self-care to relax? Do you need to get this thing done? Do you need to? That puts you in a better position, but is there a next stage to it? In future, if you have this stressor, what you going to do about it? How are you going to bounce back quicker? What does bouncing back look like to you? What does overcoming that obstacle, that stressor, actually look like to you? If you know what that is, it's going to be a lot easier to bounce back from it. It's going to be a lot easier to overcome that stressor. Okay, collaboration and so support networks, extremely important. This doesn't have to be just friends. It can be professionals. It can be helplines. It can be anyone. like make use of support networks. Maybe make a note of support networks. You think, okay, if I'm feeling really overwhelmed, if I'm feeling really stressed, if I don't feel like I can kind of tackle it on my own, it's okay to reach out, and it's recommended. It's going to help you bounce back. It's going to limit the damage of the stress. Um, manage perceptions. We already talked about that. So it all kind of goes all into one. So I've got two things: be prepared, be proactive. Be prepared, be prepared for stress. Manage it. Know what works for you. Approach it as a challenge. Got the stressor, and then be proactive. Put those things to plan. Manage it. It's not going to go away if you don't manage it, if you're not proactive. Okay, so comfort zone and growth. Green zone is when it's easy. We're living in easy mode. Don't really think about anything. Nothing's really out of our comfort zone. Orange is our comfort zone, just out of our comfort zone actually, and this is where we grow. It's important to grow. We have to step out of the comfort zone, but it is getting the balance between stepping out of the comfort zone and going into the red zone, which is when we panic, we feel overwhelmed, we feel extremely stressed, we experience burnout. So it's the difference between our ability to cope and the challenge. And as we kind of challenge that, our ability and our capacity actually gets bigger. And it takes more to kind of step out of our comfort zone, and that's how we grow. And I love this. The wind does not break the tree that bends. If we are flexible, if we manage our stress, we are more resilient. We are like that tree that does not break when it bends. But if we're extremely rigid, if we're not willing to step out of that comfort zone, if we are not willing to be prepared, if we're not willing to be proactive, then actually like we're going to be that tree that does break in a storm, that does uproot. So how can you work stress management into your life? And I love this quote: mindset, habits, and routines are the building blocks for success towards your wellness goals. Work on your mindset. Work on your habits. Got positive, got negative habits. Routines are great. It doesn't have to be complicated. It's more simple, the better. But it's what works for you. Know what you're working towards. Know what works for you. Trial and error. Just try it. If it doesn't work, you've tried it, you know it doesn't work. If it works, it's fantastic. And as I said earlier, just try, because you may be in that state where you're so stressed that you don't feel stressed, but just implement like one thing. Another important thing is self-care, whether you're relaxing or you're productive. I ask myself every day, what am I doing today? What do I need to do today? What do I need to do for me today? So we all have things. We all have like work, studies, commitments, responsibilities, which we have to do. But we have to ask ourselves, what do I need today? It may be you need 10 to 15 minutes just alone time. Maybe you need to listen to music. Maybe you need to go for that walk. Or you need kind of your favourite food. What do you need today? What do you need to do today to help relax, to manage that stress? Like be relaxing or being productive, getting things done, maybe checking off that list, and completing that task. Yeah, most important question you can ask yourself: what do I need to do today? And actually do it. It's not selfish to focus on ourselves, and give ourselves what we need. Self-care is not selfish. It is giving yourself what you need. And we can be too busy giving other people what they need that we forget our own needs. But we need to look after ourselves first so that we can actually then reach out and think of others. Okay, so thank you for listening. If you got this far, well done, and thank you for listening to my ramblings. I hope it makes sense. If it doesn't, you need clarification. My email is jotsjoycounselling@outlook.com. Feel free to give me an email and I'll respond. follow. Instagram's up there. All links to like social media. Facebook is Counselling for Everyone. Please follow. Please share this. There's also blogs. There's also podcasts. I also do live Q&As, coffee mornings. So just have a look. Website's on there. Thank you.